Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. I'm very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Hello, welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to the latest edition of the Doctor Who Daily. We're going to read a couple of articles out from Radio Times and we're also going to review season 12. But if you're expecting me to go into each episode, I'm not. I'm just going to look at season 12 as a whole and give you my opinion on it. So first of all, we have got this article from Patrick Mulkern. Right, so this is the title of this article, and this is him pretty much talking about the Timeless Children. Doctor Who, The Timeless Children Review, the much vaunted finale, is an overblown gush of nonsense. Let's give it a read. Chris Chibnall simultaneously reveals and withholds so much about the Doctor's origins, and the guff about the Timeless Child does not make for gripping television. I disagree, but we'll keep on reading. What an awful boring mess. That's what I jotted in my notebook halfway through this Doctor Who finale, and it didn't much improve, so that's what I pass on to you first, unadorned. Despite Cybermen stomping around the Master, grandstanding on Gallifrey, and the Doctor learning loads about her earlier lives, the Timeless Children manages to be spectacularly turgid and overblown gush of nonsense that gobbles up almost 65 minutes of primetime television. Frankly, I'd rather have sat through the double edition of Country File. Not me, mate, but you watch Country File. It's still going to be on next week, right? Where to begin? Everything is about to change. Such is the Master's teasing warning. In the cliffhanger recap, I'm not remotely bothered if current showrunner Chris Chibnall scatters and scrunches the sacred text. Really, there aren't any. There is no Doctor Who Bible. Rather, he has concocted an earlier unknown testament, but in so doing has stretched the mythology to breaking point. You can't fault his audacity, and it's definitely audacious, isn't it? But the Timeless Children can't hope to be interesting as any sense of drama or dramatic tension makes way for an exposition of megadump. This lore fest might startle the drooling devotee, but must signally fail to engage the programme's dwindling audience. I prefer the idea of William Hartnell being the original Doctor, but numerous incarnations prior to his. I can accept them. I've been intrigued by this concept since 1976, when 8 unfamiliar faces popped up in the mind-bending contest or in the brain of Morbius. How far, Doctor? How long have you lived? We also already knew that the Doctor in the time of the Doctor and the Master in the 5 Doctors were offered a full new set of regenerations, so none of this is new. The Doctor's long-lost history exposed now offers one minor reward, in that the Irish Brendan simulation establishes that she was at least once Ginger and a fine redhead. Expect the actor Evan McCabe shortly to be whirled around the Who convention circuit and Big Finish audio merry-go-round. The finale disappoints by showing little of the magnificent Dr. Ruth, Jo Martin. This guff about the gormless kid, the timeless child, abandoned, dithering around on the boundary to another realm, discovered by the Shebogan space explorer Tectayun. Regeneration through a flurry of races and genders. This might read well in prose 1 of the fan fantasies indulged by BBC Books, perhaps, but narrated by Sacha Dhawan's Master at length and enacted by a mute cast on BBC One, it does not make for involving television. Really? For me, the crucial line in this is Dr. Ruth, have you ever been limited by who you were before? Let's hope we can file all these earlier identities under unclaimed baggage. Forget and move on. That is why I don't believe Ruth is the Doctor, and I did this in my video revealing that I actually believe that the Doctor isn't the Timeless Child, and Ruth is actually Tectayun, and she uploaded herself to the Matrix, and she's done something. She's created a false story, and what the Master has discovered is actually wrong, or he's lying. But again, he doesn't offer the Doctor any evidence that she's actually the Timeless Child. So that's interesting. And I also said on my video that I believe that Yaz is actually the Timeless Child. Anyway, despite Dhawan's considerable charm and maximum efforts, I missed the master. I mean, the proper master, the original. You might say, I'm so lucky I grew up watching Roger Delgado's interpretation in the 1970s. He was dastardly, suave, charismatic, utterly persuasive. I also miss Missy, a wash-pish, hilarious, black-hearted Mary Poppins who sought and earned redemption. Expertly pitched by Michel Gomez, Dhawan's master seems to be channeling the bonkers John Sim version. That's fine with me. He's trying too hard to be insane, pouring a glee and a little restraint into each scene, though his florid performance helps lift many a stagnant stand and mansplain moment. Oh, God! God! What is wrong with these people? I bet the fandom many thought they were going to be reading this and thinking, this guy's with us. But this is basically, right, this is coming from a classic Who fan. When I say a classic Who fan, I'm a fan of all Who, but there's classic Who fans who think classic Who is so more superior than the revival. And the revival is a separate show. And this is why this guy's bigging up Delgado. Roger Delgado is brilliant. Ainsley's brilliant. Every master, even Julia Roberts' brother, are awesome. I've enjoyed all of them, right? But this guy's coming from a certain point of view. So already you can see his agenda. It's the third finale in recent years to rely on the Master Missy in alliance with the Cybermen. So what? Remarkably quickly, these new arrivals on Gallifrey are blended with Time Lord body parts. They also have time to augment their armour with the outre regalia, those silly ceremonial collars that even in their debut, the Deadly Assassins were described as seldom worn robes with their colourful collar insignia. They look ridiculous. They don't look ridiculous, right? They don't look ridiculous. They look cool. Shut up. When will the Who makers stop relying on the Cybermen? Do you know I hate this? I hate this. Right. We mustn't have any old characters. Why do we keep on relying on the Daleks and the Cybermen and the Master? They are iconic villains in Doctor Who lore. One moment you're saying, Doctor wouldn't do this, the Doctor wouldn't do that. It's nothing like the classic series. Then you're complaining. Last year we all complained because there was no Doctor Who characters. And now he kind of listens to our criticism and does it. And we're still criticising him. It's nuts. When will the Who makers stop relying on the Cybermen? They are donors personified. Ashad, the Cyberman, shows some personality and promise, but is tissue compressed in the most anticlimactic manner. His army yet again are lousy shots. It would have been gratifying had they at least grazed Graham, singed Yaz, or flattened Ryan. If they flatten Ryan, he's pretty much dead, right? I know what you're saying, but still, they're not dead, and then you're still going to be calling them bad shots, aren't you? Ridiculous. Accentuate the positives. There are some, the heartwarming interlude where Graham praises Yaz for being such an impressive young woman. You're never afraid and you're never beaten. And then worrying he's offended her sensibilities is beautifully written and played. Of course, we mustn't give anyone any compliments. They may think we're dirty old men and we want to shag them. It's beautifully written and played. The Doctor using all her memories to blow the Matrix and feel herself is a flurry of joy, and a rare example of the signature tune being used mid-programme in a vacuum of tension. One scene gets close to suspenseful when Yaz, Graham and co hide inside cybersuits and are stalked by Ashad. I also like the minuscule beat of relief when Ravio, Julie Graham, steps out of the TARDIS 20th century house and realises this is Earth. Where on Earth? Yeah, that was pretty cool. And we'll see her again. I'd like her to be a companion, but I'm assuming on the Christmas special, her and Graham will set up house together. Maybe in that TARDIS. Who knows? Apart from deliberate obfuscation in Chris Chibnall's script, which simultaneously reveals but withholds so much. Yes, that's the point. He's creating a new legacy and he doesn't want to play all his hand, right? A few minor quibbles remain. How did the Master escape from his trap at the end of Spyfall? How did he destroy Gallifrey? How did he wipe out the Time Lords, stop them regenerating, or deep freeze a selection for the cyber conversion? He just does. How did the Boundary establish a handy link between Ko Sharma's beach and Gallifrey? It just does. How do the Doctor and the humans get off the exploding cyber ship and suddenly access a working TARDIS? They just do. How on earth can the Judoon materialise inside the Doctor's supposedly unpregnable TARDIS? They just do. But we've already seen in season 12 that things can get into the TARDIS. I know, listen, right, listen to me. If we stood there on a feature-length finale and explained everything to these people who want to be spoon-fed, we wouldn't have an episode. It would be 3 hours. The BBC would be bankrupt. We don't need to know everything. We wanted to know the meat of the sandwich, and that's what we got in this finale, and that's the problem. But again, it's just a contrived way from a kind of classic Who fan who basically hates the revival, right, to kind of shit on this episode. Thus, the timeless children clamped shut with tedious cliffhanger. The doctor being incarcerated is death to drama. Former showrunner Russell T Davies appreciated that and would never allow it during his tenure. I love cliffhangers. They're exciting. And, you know, I know Russell wasn't a big fan of cliffhangers for the sake of cliffhangers, but I like them. And it's how I watched TV growing up. Dallas, Dynasty, classic Who had cliffhangers. Kind of the era this guy's gushing about, right? Make your mind up, mate. Series 12 has improved on Series 11, but tragically Doctor Who has had more green viewers, at least in the UK. It's still being made by well-intentioned, dedicated cast and crew, but it has become old hat on a good day and old toot on a bad one. They can't physically produce the rate of episodes the BBC secretly will like each year, not to a high enough standard. Will another overhaul help? Casting coup to entice young or disenchanted viewers. I would look to the emerging talent in Netflix Sex Education. Oh my God! The finale demonstrated that everything is about to change does not equate to everything is about to improve. With luck, there are a lot of lives left in the good Time Lord, but with a heavy heart I'm saying he deserves and indeed needs a lengthy rest. Right. Doctor Who does not need a lengthy rest, right? And you know, again, and I've come to this point yesterday, the problem with Chibnall's Doctor Who isn't the timeless child reveal. The problem with Doctor Who isn't the finale. The problem with Doctor Who, Chris Chibnall's era, he has refused to give the Doctor characteristics and characterizations and her companions. That's the problem. So when you get to the standalones, because none of the standalones, even in the RTD era, or very few of them, were that interesting or that memorable. Go on, pull me out a title. You can't. There's a few, but most of them are drab and boring, because standalones are drab and boring. But what made them entertaining and enthralling was the characterizations and the characteristics of the Doctor, whether it's Eccleston, Tennant, Smith, or Capaldi, right? That's what makes them interesting. And their companions, their fleshed out companions. The reason why, and I'll talk about season 12 shortly, the reason that this era of Doctor Who is less interesting and you kind of, oh well, is because the Doctor has got no characterizations and nor does her companions. And that, my friends, is the real issue of this era of Doctor Who. And going on about this and basically, he's putting down Sacha Dhawan's Master. I don't get this, right? Oh, it's too similar to John Sims. John Sim was an awesome master. All the masters were awesome. They were all kind of from their generation, the time when TV was being made. And they're all awesome. But we live in a generation where you're either a new Who fan or you're a classic Who fan. Because classic Who has nothing to do with new Who, right? Nothing. It's absolute nonsense. This guy is part of the problem because he's not focusing on the real issues. And he even comes out with Sex Education, looking to the cast of Sex Education, or talking about the master mansplaining. I mean, it really not part of the solution really. But I've spoken about my issues, and there's another article I want to read. Be right back. We know the Radio Times is affiliated with the BBC, but I'm not sure how affiliated they are these days. It used to be all for the BBC schedule. I think it's all for all TV now. But anyway, here's their next article. So they had that guy do that awful kind of review, and there was a lot of bias. Of course, everyone's biased. And look, the Doctor Who finale is something everybody's talking about. Even people who don't seem to have watched it. Everyone has an opinion. And people are talking like Chibnall took all 13 regenerations, or 14, or however you want to count them, and delete them. Every single actor who's played the Doctor is still the Doctor. It's still the show we know and love. He's just expanded on the lore. But the point is, with his Timeless Child arc, he's not done yet. And this is why he has said nothing. He hasn't come out to defend it because it's being attacked left, right and centre. There's more of a story to tell. And maybe the Daleks episode will see it even expand even further. But this is going to develop through his whole era on Doctor Who. And that's why I feel that the Doctor actually isn't a Timeless Child. It's just too easy. But people are throwing their opinions too soon and actually making themselves look stupid. No, Doctor Who's big new changes don't betray or ruin anything about the series. Jodie Whittaker's Doctor found out some shocking truths about her past in the Series 12 finale. But it's ridiculous to suggest this new storyline is disrespectful or wrong, says Hugh Fullerton. I agree, but I don't like to call people's opinions dumb or stupid or anything like that. You can't say Doctor Who Series 12 hasn't been ambitious after the first series for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor with barely a sniff of extended Doctor Who continuity or hardcore trivia. The follow-up concludes with the revival of 44-year-old plot hole, callbacks to classic series episodes and a rewrite of the Time Lord history. Not bad for a difficult second album. But it's also fair to say the new twist revealed in The Timeless Children have been divisive. Oh, sorry. Been divisive. The discovery that the Doctor is not from Gallifrey was the first of all Time Lords and had a whole series of lives she doesn't remember, has genuinely incensed some fans. Really? Who have taken to social media to claim serial boss Chris Chibnall is vandalising decades of canon, disrespecting William Hartnell and generally killing the show, or words to that effect anyway. But isn't all this a bit overblown? Whatever you think of the Series 12 finale itself, which may vary depending on your tolerance for fabulous dramatic cyberlords, the changes themselves seem to me to genuinely open up intriguing new doors for Doctor Who. I agree. While still paying tribute to the series past. Again, I agree. Despite the Master's promise, not a whole lot has changed here. The Doctor is still a time-travelling alien having adventures and changing faces. The TARDIS is still a police box. The series will continue. Sure, Chibnall has tweaked the Time Lord history and given Regeneration an origin story, but really it's remarkable how little this actually changes established canon, as our own Morgan Jeffrey has written elsewhere. What the Timeless Children does is add possibility and mystery to the Doctor's backstory. Exactly. Now, there's a whole collection of past lives, dark deeds and adventures she doesn't know about and may uncover in the future series, as hinted by the large portion of her life redacted in the Time Lord Matrix archive. Personally, I'm all for it. Beyond the jealously guarded numbering system as we as fans have attached to the Doctors. Hello, I'm the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, said Never. That's been lost by giving the Doctor a pass before Hartnell. That's true. But you can still call Hartnell the first Doctor and the second Doctor. He was the first Doctor on screen anyway. It doesn't suddenly mean William Hartnell didn't invent the character. It's a real-life historical fact in our own actual reality that he did that. It's an insult to his memorably, arguably replacing him in the titular role of his TV show with another actor may have been more of a blow back in the 1960s, should we retrospectively cancel Patrick Troughton and every other Doctor since out of respect. Anyway, it's not like the idea of pre-Hartnell incarnations is a new idea, as referenced in The Timeless Children in 1977. What? Anyway. But no, anyway, I can't know. The Timeless Children was the episode of the finale. Oh, right, I get, sorry. As referred in the Timeless Children 1977 story, The Brain of Morbius, was this intended to apply at least 8 incarnations before Hartnell, which now may be canonical. And personally, I've always thought it was a shame that in a story about endlessly body-changing immortal, we've decided to start with the very first version of the character. Isn't it more interesting to suggest there are versions of the Doctor we haven't known, rather than us just landing by chance with the original, you might say? Why else was John Hurt's War Doctor such a fun addition to the series, if not to scratch that itch for character mystery? Here's a fact. A huge number of Doctor Who fans today, maybe even a majority, first started watching the series in its post-2005 revived era. For them, the Doctor has always had a long list of previous lives. Unknown adventures and secrets. Christopher Eccleston, or one of his successors, may have been their first Doctor, but we all knew he was never supposed to be the first Doctor. Did that make it wrong for fans to get to know the character through him? Did that make him less of the Doctor? Look, listen, I don't think there's a problem with these pre-Hartnell Doctors, but I will say this. The reason they don't see Eccleston or Tennant as the first Doctor, because they already know Tennant isn't the first Doctor. But for years, since the beginning of Doctor Who, everyone's assumed Hartnell was the first Doctor. I can understand why people are upset. I don't agree with it, but I can actually get it, right? That's one thing we need to say here. This is just spin. No, it didn't. And if anything, The Timeless Children does something clever by sidestepping any sort of an idea about the first Doctor by having the Doctor's former self regenerate and change many times, muddying the waters as to when she actually took the name and became a recognisable version of the character. We know, though the existence of Jo Martin's Doctor does suggest Hartnell wasn't the first to use the name. And now that's if Jo Martin's Doctor is the Doctor. Now we have no reason to doubt this. I'm just doubting this. In fact, despite the tenure of some complaints online, it's actually all fairly respectful. Chibnall hasn't brutally taken a scalp to previous Gallifrey set stories. They are all still work in this new continuity, correct? The changes he has made are ideas explored in the classic series already. The brain of Morbius' older Doctors and the planned storyline from the 1980s that Sylvester McCoy's 7th Doctor was something more than an ordinary Time Lord. So it's hard to say they're a huge left turn compared to what came before. And what's clear here, that aborted attempt to say Sylvester McCoy's Doctor was more important than we ever thought he was, is something that Chris Chibnall obviously wishes happened. So through the power he has as being showrunner, he's done it. And, you know, he has every right to do that. And how did this important, immutable canon, God stop using clever words, canon, come to pass, if not for people making it up as they went along anyway? If all Doctor Who did was stick to the status quo, the Doctor would be a 42nd century human who built a time machine as described in the show's original pitch document, had a few adventures and just stopped in the 1960s when William Hartnell became too ill to continue. The regular process of change and rejuvenation, no matter how painful it can feel at the time, is the only reason Doctor Who survived its earliest days. This is true. Delivered whatever you preferred era of the show was, and has kept going for nearly 60 years. Look, nobody's trying to force someone to enjoy an episode they didn't enjoy, or blindly salute a story choice they found unsatisfying. If you don't like Doctor Who's latest episode, that's fine. One day another one will come along you enjoy more. But to say these new revelations break, destroy or ruin Doctor Who, I think we all need to take a breath and get a little perspective right after we're done re-editing the TARDIS data core wiki. I like that. Mostly I agree with what that journalist said for the Radio Times. I think it doesn't destroy anything. It expands on Doctor Who lore. And basically the people who are using this fake outrage, and it is fake outrage, by the way, because basically all the Doctors you love and know that you've got in your cabinet on Blu-ray and DVD or whatever, or VHS, has still been the Doctor. Nothing has been deleted. The only thing they're changing is they're saying that William Hartnell wasn't the first Doctor, right? And basically they were pretty much implying that with the brains of Morbius, right, already. And nobody had an issue with that. But all of a sudden, people have agendas. People are really angry that we've got a female Doctor. But you're missing the point. And it's the point I brought up yesterday in yesterday's Doctor Who Daily. The problem is none of these things. The problem is that Chris Chibnall has created this amazing master who's disgusted with his own existence, who literally has a death wish because he is not the chosen one, because he has a part of the Doctor, his enemy, once his friend, inside him. Without her, he wouldn't be a Time Lord, and that disgusts him. And it's written beautifully. The issue with that is he's given us this multi-layered master, right? And he hasn't given us any characterizations for the Doctor and her companions. And that's the issue. And I have to ask why. Why have you developed the master so well? And why have you underdeveloped the Doctor and her fam? It doesn't make sense. And I'd love to interview Chris Chibnall, not to get at him, just to ask him, because that's one thing. Why are the other doctors so well and finally kind of developed and given these characterizations, and why hasn't Jodie's doctor had this? Why is she being let down by Chris not giving her the characteristics and the characterizations every other actor playing the Doctor has had? So now we're going to quickly, in the next 5 minutes, just look at season 12 as a whole. I would say the Nikola Tesla episode is one of my favourite standalones. I felt it was emotional. I thought the characters gelled together really well, and I really liked it. Mostly the standalones, and I'm not talking about The Haunting of the Villa Diodati. I see that as part of a 3-part finale. And I love that episode, and I love The Lone Cyberman, and it really worked. But I think, as a whole, the standalones were very bland and uninteresting. And the reason they're bland and uninteresting is because normally you come in for the standalones for the Doctor and her companions. But because those characters are so undeveloped, because of the guest cast and the characters being so underdeveloped, none of the standalones work. It's actually the same issue we had with what Chris Chibnall was doing or wasn't doing in season 11. And that problem hasn't been mended. And he has to look at this. Now, with Tosin Cole and Bradley Walsh going, we have an opportunity maybe just to have Yaz and the Doctor in the TARDIS and really flesh out that relationship and that dynamic. Because I really do think, after what I saw in the finale between them very quickly, I believe there's potential there. So in terms of season 12, we still have the underdeveloped, mediocre episodes that need to be looked at. I'm fine with historical episodes with social commentary, but at least give us some characters to indulge in and be interested in. That's what you need to do, Chris, and that's something you are not doing. You gave us a fantastic Master. Now give us a fantastic Doctor. Jodie Whittaker can act. She showed us that already. Give her something. Give us something so we can say, yes, that's the Doctor, because that's what's really lacking right now. Now, I am confident now he's kind of trimming away the fat, which I suppose is harsh for Tosin Cole and Bradley Walsh, but that's what's being done. We can go back to basics. Random police box travel, like in the RTD era, and with one companion. Now, maybe we'll get an extra companion. Is it Ethan, the young boy? Maybe he'll come. He could be a version of the Doctor. He could be the timeless child that's been protected all this time, right? We don't know. So maybe he'll go with them, right? And maybe so there'll be 2 companions instead of 3. That could work, because I think Chris Chibnall has enough problem with one character and developing them and giving them characteristics. Never mind having 3 companions and a Doctor. Bit too much for him to chew off. And I think it's difficult anyway. You've got to give all these characters time. And even though past showrunners, including like from An Unearthly Child, how great Ian and Barbara and Susan kind of were, it is a hard act to do. So maybe just Ethan and Yaz, or maybe just Yaz and the Doctor would be even better. But we'll see how that works out. So season 12 is a great season for one reason and one reason only. The arcs, the Master. The reveal of the Master in Spyfall is the best Master reveal. And I love the reveal with Jacoby and when he's looking at the stock, the pocket clock and all that. Amazing. But this is something else, because he's playing O, and O is pretty much who you would describe Sacha Dhawan as. Charming, likeable, someone you'd want to go down the pub with. But really, he's hiding. He's already killed O. He's shrunk O, and he's impersonating O. And when he does the reveal on the plane, it is amazing. Spy Master? Come on, Doctor. And amazing. And the theme that Sagon Akinola has given him is one of the best things he's done since composing the show when he first came in with season 11. That is in my head. It makes me want to be the Master. It's a great theme. But Sacha Dhawan's Master is the darkest Master we've ever had. And he is amazing. And I expect him back for season 13 without question. He has to be there quite a lot, and I think he will. I think we will see the Cybermen, the Time Lord Cybermen, or whatever they're calling them, right? I think they'll be back for the Christmas special. Maybe they might even help the Doctor for some reason. I don't know. But So season 12 is an improvement on season 11. It's an improvement on the entertainment value and really the arc that some people are criticising takes it over the edge. But what really gives this show, what really gives this season such a great glimmer of hope, I believe it's not just the Timeless Child arc, it's the reveal of Jo Martin's character Ruth and the Ruth Doctor, if she in fact is the Doctor. A question that's yet to be answered. We don't know. Chris Chibnall has said no tricks, she's definitely the Doctor. But is she a pre-Hartnell Doctor? We already know there's pre-Hartnell Doctors, but is she a pre-Hartnell Doctor? Or is she Tech Tae-Yu, basically regenerated and uploading herself into the Matrix to corrupt the Matrix? That's my theory. So I think she's a nefarious character. I think there's lots more things to find out about her. So I think, honestly speaking, the episodes that stand out from season 12, to me, are Spyfall, the reveal of the Master, one of the finest things I've ever seen in Doctor Who. Part 2, when you see the Master and the Doctor interacting, and you get that brilliant chemistry between Jodie and Sasha. Amazing. I think Nikola Tesla is a really good episode. I'm not a big hater of Orphan 55 like most. I do think it's very average, but standalones normally are. But again, because you're lacking characterizations from the Doctor, her companions and the guest cast, all the standalones are really problematic. So we've been through that. No need to talk about that again to another time, because it is interesting. So I don't hate Orphan 55 or The Message that much. I think they did a good job with it, my personal opinion, but people are calling it preachy. Probably climate change deniers. Anyway, so the standalones are pretty average because of the lack of development with the Doctor and the companions. But then we get to Fugitive of the Judoon. That is one of the finest episodes, not just of Doctor Who, but of TV. This is legacy television. And what Chris Chibnall does with this episode is fantastic. He pretty much makes sure that Barrowman likes a tweet about him returning. So we know he's returning. Now, I couldn't see this episode till the Monday, the same with the finale, right? So I pretty much was on Twitter because I love seeing all your reactions. And it was amazing. Captain Jack's back. But then Ruth becomes the Doctor, basically, when the glass is smashed. Then we see the TARDIS coming up from under the ground, the top of the TARDIS. That is a moment that will stick with me for a very long time. And we still don't know why that TARDIS is disguised as a police box and what era she's from. Because potentially we can still have these theories about Jo Martin's Ruth Doctor because we don't know. We haven't been given any answers, right? She could still be from Series 6B. She could be the Doctor then, right? Before Troughton regenerates into Pertwee, maybe Troughton regenerated into Ruth, or many versions of the Doctor, right? We don't know that. That's an aspect we will find out in the future. This is why I'm saying that the Timeless Child and the Ruth Doctor are part of the Chibnall era now, and they will pop up all the time, and that's brilliant. That's why I think it expands the canon, not destroy it, but that's just my personal opinion. So Fugitive of the Judoon opens up so many great things, and we all love Jo Martin's Doctor, right? And as I say, it's interesting that her Doctor has the je ne sais quoi, right, that Jodie's Doctor doesn't have. Is that within the writing, or is that the presence that Jo Martin has on screen? We won't discuss that now, and I don't want to be unfair to Jodie. So we then go through the motions in other episodes. Again, standalone, not that interesting. There's a few interesting little flashes to the Timeless Child, but then we get to the Haunting of the Villa Diodati, which is not only a great standalone episode, it integrates what they're going to do with the finale, and it's finessely done by the writer, who isn't Chris Chibnall. Chris Chibnall isn't involved in that episode, but of course he would have been consulting with the writer. It's his show. The Mary Shelley episode is brilliant, and the concept of the lone Cyberman is fantastic. And why Chris thought it was a good idea to kill him off when he could have been popping up, I think that's a waste, and I think that's a shame. So then we get into the double finale. So it's really, the first part I think is very intriguing with the Brendan character and what's going on there. and we see the Cybermen and they're intimidating, and the lone Cyberman is even more intimidating. And then at the end, the Master turns up, and then we get the finale we've all seen. I think the finale is amazing. I genuinely believe it's a fantastic piece of TV. It's one of the best episodes of Doctor Who I've seen in years. And I think the performances were strong all round. Where the episode actually suffered is, again, I'm going to say it again, the word characteristics and characterization. Because Jodie's Doctor is so underdeveloped, the impact would have been a lot more if he did develop her. Sacha Dhawan's Master's basically been in Doctor Who for 5 minutes. And the characteristics and the characterizations are there just like that. Chris has given Sacha that. So why can't Chris pay the same respect to Jodie Whittaker? And I hope he does it going forward, because it's important for the future. Otherwise, his era is just something we're just going to have to get through. And I don't want that. I don't want that, because I genuinely like his vision for the show. And I think it's very interesting. Does he have a political ideology? All writers have political ideologies, and they put it within their material. And I'm fine with that. If he wants to call me a male, a mansplainer, I don't care. I don't care. Is he doing right by Doctor Who? Look, that's a bigger question. But the point in what he's trying to do with Jo Martin's Roof and The Timeless Child is extremely exciting and extremely interesting. And to be honest, it's made me excited for Doctor Who. Because before The Fugitive or the Judoon episode, before the reveal of the Master in Spyfall Part 1, I wasn't as interested in Doctor Who. I've always loved Doctor Who, I always will. But even the Capaldi era was taking my passion and inspiration away for Doctor Who. Because even though Peter Capaldi was a great doctor, the actual narrative for his Doctor wasn't very interesting, and I began to become bored. And I continue to be bored within Season 11. But what Chibnall has done in Season 12 with this double arc of The Timeless Child and the Roof Doctor and bringing back Captain Jack, it's reinvigorated my excitement for this character and this show. And Chris, all you have to do now is work on the Doctor. Make her more of the Doctor. If you do that, you have won me 100%. So what did you think of Season 12? Please comment down below. All comments and all views are absolutely relevant on this channel. Just please be respectful towards me and other people who have different opinions. We're a family. We can all have different opinions. No opinion is wrong or right. My opinion is not universally right. It's just my point of view and my opinion, and neither is yours. But I don't want any racist comments down below, any kind of going at Chris Chibnall in a way that's not respectful. If you don't agree with what he's done or what he's doing, that's fine. But be respectful all round. So comment down below, like, share and subscribe. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow with even more Doctor Who Daily. I really hope you're enjoying these videos. See you again tomorrow.